Hey there, welcome back to YT Classroom. Today we have another video on IGCSE Economics, and today we are looking at chapter 1, which is the topic is the nature of the economic problem, and the basic unit is out of the 6 units. It's the first unit, the basic economic problem. Now, this is a topic that develops a base understanding on why do we study economics and what is economics all about, and this is essentially a very important topic as you carry on your studies. So in this videos we're going to mostly be covering using the syllabus points. As you can see here, we have got the syllabus of 2023 to 2025, although it hasn't changed much. So we have got to define what are finite resources and unlimited ones. We'll learn about that, and we have economic goods as well as free goods. So let's start without any delay. First time here, this is a channel where we regularly upload IGCSE videos, and make sure you subscribe because a lot of IGCSE videos regarding subjects on computer science, economics, business and accounting are coming out soon, including maths and English. Let's start. Now, first of all, we look at what are finite resources and unlimited ones, which is the first thing. Now, basically, I want you to think for a minute. What all things do you currently need or do you currently want? You might have everything which you currently need, but what else do you want? And if I ask you to prepare a list of everything that you need, it's going to be a non-ending list, unless for you are a very satisfied person and a very rich person and you just own everything you want. But most people generally they have a lot of wants, and they want to buy that and that, but can they actually do that? No. Apart from having a lot of money, you have something which is known as finite resources. Finite resources. Now, when you say about money, money is somehow related to finite resources. However, it is not directly what you're referring to when I'm talking about finite resources. Now, when I talk about resources, what exactly do I mean by resources in terms of economics? Resources refers to factors that are used to produce goods and services. Resources refers to factors that are used to produce that are used to produce goods and services that are used to produce goods and services. That's what we took as resources. And in economics, as well as in the general business studies of economics, resources or economic resources are generally divided into 4 different categories, or there are 4 different types of resources. So when you look at that, now we have resources moving into 4 categories: 1, 2, 3, as well as a 4th one. Now the first category here that we have is land, second is labor, third is capital, and 4th is enterprise. Now these resources are going to be studied in detail in the next video, since your next chapter is all about talking about these resources and in detail about them. I've just mentioned here to give you a brief introduction to them. So now you essentially have these resources, and these resources at any time given are basically finite in the sense they are limited or not. There's a limited quantity of these resources. These are limited. That's a very important time to understand. Now, with a limited number of resources at a given time, if with a limited number and the given like the level of technology that you're using, you can only produce a limited number of goods or services, but your want is always more than that. So basically your number of goods people want or they need is greater than what can be produced. Wants are greater than your production or your produced goods and services. Why? Because basically to produce those goods or services you need resources, and any given time you have just a limited number of these resources. Now why does the economic problem continue? Scarcity will continue to exist now, because if you see from the past, today at every day more goods and services are being produced. But does this satisfy the economic problem? No, this does not, because as your production increases, as more goods and services are being produced, there's increasing demand also. So basically people are wanting more and more goods as more and more goods are being produced. So always there's a difference between what is being produced and what do people want, which causes the economic problem. In simple words, the economic problem is unlimited wants exceeding finite resources. And if you talk about the definition of scarcity in simple terms, it's basically a situation where you do not have enough to satisfy everyone's wants. Now, when we have now because of the economic problem, we have to decide how do we have to use our resources. In fact, there's another topic in economics on IGCSE economics that that leads to choices that have to be made. So basically, if you can only do a limited number of things with what you have currently, you have to decide whether you want to produce more of that or more of that. So again, that's another thing. Now, the economic problem is in different contexts. Now, the basically, as you can see here, definitions and examples of the economy in the context of consumers, workers, producers, and governments. Now, when we talk about consumers, okay, I'm just gonna, all right, let's hold it for a minute. Consumers, we have producers, we have the government, consumers, producers, workers, and governments. Consumers, producers, workers, and government. Now, when I talk about consumers, it's a simple relative thought that consumers have limited incomes and they want to buy a lot of goods, so they have to make a choice between what good or service do I need to buy with the amount that I have available. You cannot buy everything you want, so that's regarding your limited income. Limited income. As producers, now as producers also have a fixed amount of space or the availability of machinery that they're using to produce goods. Even when basically we're talking about capital, so either you have a fixed amount of machinery or you have a fixed amount of space which you have to keep your goods, so you cannot produce more than that. All right, we talk about workers. Now, workers at one time they cannot work on more than one job. They have to decide whether they want to work on this job or this job. So again, that is because they have limited time, and producers limited time. Producers have limited again they have limited also their limited capital. Now, when you talk about capital, it's basically how much you invest into the business in terms of economics, or the availability of goods and machinery. In business studies, you might have studied capital as what does the owner invest, but in economics, we see capital as the machinery, the man-made goods which are used to produce more goods and services. So you have limited capital equipment for producers, as well as limited space, etc. Now, you can think of an example for producers as having farmers on the same piece of land. Either they can only decide to grow one of the crops, either rice or wheat or something else. They cannot grow more than one crop at a time. Then let's talk about government. Government is basically concerned with tax expenditure. So government collects tax from them, which is called as tax revenue. They also have to decide how to spend this tax. So for example, they might use tax to build a hospital or build a school. They have to make a choice. They cannot do both. Alright, that's it about economic, the first part of this topic, which is finite resources and unlimited wants. The second part of the topic is economic and free goods. Economic goods and free goods. Economic goods and free goods. Okay. Now, when it comes to the economic goods are any goods which basically require the use of limited or finite resources to produce them. Now, any good you think of in general terms, is basically an economic good. Now, for example, let's say you have a calculator, or let's say you have an iPad in this case. So there has been land in terms of basically natural materials that were used. So you have land, you have labor in terms of the workers who were used. You have capital. In capital, you have the machinery which was used to assemble this iPad together, and you have the entrepreneur, which is basically who decided that I'm going to finance the activity, and I'm going to get all of the factors of production together. Factors of production are basically the economic resources, as we talked about: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. And secondly, those basically get the profit of it, entrepreneurs. So economic goods are any goods basically that require finite resources to produce them. They require finite resources to produce them, they require finite resources to produce them, as well as their consumption involves an opportunity cost. Now, in simple terms, as I said, opportunity cost itself is a different topic in economics, but as it's mentioned here, in simple terms, opportunity cost is what is the next best alternative. Now, let me give an example. You had $10, so you decided to you went to the let's say a cafe and got a coffee and a donut for $10. But let's say that if you hadn't spent the $10 on your coffee and your donuts, you might have gone to a stationery shop and got a few things from stationery for yourself. So when you spent your money on the coffee and the donuts, the opportunity cost of using that money was let's say getting stationery equipment. Or a worker, he decides to work in a bank instead of working in a let's say company, in a construction company. He decides to work in a bank. So the opportunity cost of working in a bank is working in the construction company. One more example could be a producer decides to produce, let's say, calculators, or a farmer decides to grow wheat on his farm. So he cannot grow rice anymore. So the opportunity cost of growing wheat was rice. So consumption of these goods involves an opportunity cost. Now basically, economic goods are those goods which are resources to produce them, and if they're being consumed, that means resources were used, and these finite resources could be used to produce something else, right? So that's why this consumption involves an opportunity cost. On the other hand, you have free goods. Now one of the biggest mistakes you take is as free goods as basically those goods you don't have to pay off. In economics, it's not like that. In economics, free goods are any types of good which did not require resources in their production, as well as hence if they don't require resources, that means there is no alternative of that good, and hence they do not involve an opportunity cost. So basically the opposite of economic goods. No resources required, as well as no opportunity cost. So basically, let's say you think of sunlight or air. So in sunlight, in the production of the sunlight or air, you do not require any scarce or finite resources, and hence even if you take sunlight or do not sunlight, there's no other use of the sunlight, so you definitely do have to take it. There's no opportunity cost involved in taking up air, because there's no other thing that you can do instead of breathing in air except for die. So that's it for this topic. It's a very basic topic. I'm going to be uploading more of the videos and try to cover up this entire IGCSE syllabus throughout the year. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and stay tuned because more IGCSE videos are coming out soon. If you guys wanted any help or any you think that I could make a video on any topic which could help you, please do suggest it in the comment section. I'll be very grateful for that. Thank you. See you in the next video.